Hey, thanks for joining us in today's video. As a reminder, if you haven't yet subscribed, be sure and hit the little subscribe button down below. Hit the little notification bell and make sure you get notified each time a new video like this is released. Today we're going to talk about using diaphragm elk calls. And when it comes to diaphragm elk calls, they can be intimidating, primarily because they're hard to learn how to use for most people. But it doesn't have to be like that. If you break it down into a simple process, I'm going to show you how you can be an exceptional elk caller using a diaphragm elk call. If you haven't watched our previous video on selecting a diaphragm elk call, be sure and do that, as well as the video on proper care for diaphragm elk calls. Both are going to be really important for you to get started once we jump in here and start talking about how to master the diaphragm elk call. When it comes to using a diaphragm elk call, it's really not that complicated. At least it doesn't have to be. We're going to simplify the process for you today and show you how you can use them to maximize the sounds that you're making with the diaphragm. There are three things I want to touch on. First off, when it comes to using a diaphragm call. The first is placement of the call in your mouth. Second, we're going to touch on airflow. And third, we're going to touch on pressure. So when it comes to placement, a diaphragm is built with an outer tape, and the tape is just simply the apparatus that allows you to position the diaphragm in your mouth. Inside the tape, there's a metal frame, and inside the metal frame is latex. The latex is actually what makes the sound, and the vibration of air across the latex is what produces sound. Once you learn to produce sound, from there it's just a matter of controlling that sound. So to get started, you put the diaphragm in with the latex side down. So the latex is down against your tongue. If there's a dome or anything on top, that goes up against the roof of your mouth, and then the tape side goes back in your mouth. The latex is facing out. So it goes in just like this. From there, just take your tongue, set this on your tongue, and then seat it up against either the top row of your teeth or the roof of your mouth. Just get it in your mouth up against the roof there where it's most comfortable. You don't want it back too far, you don't want it forward too much. You want it just where it's slightly forward of middle, but where it's also comfortable, because comfort's going to be a big part of this. From there, you just take your tongue, and don't use the tip of your tongue. If you use the tip of your tongue, the tip of that tongue is just a very acute little muscle, and it's going to be harder to control, plus it's going to tickle like crazy. So use more of the ball of your tongue, the rounded part of your tongue, and seat that call, the diaphragm call, up against the roof of your mouth. Just move it around a little bit, find where it's most comfortable. From there, it's just a matter of getting airflow over the latex. So I'm going to put the diaphragm in, get it seated where it's comfortable. For me, it's comfortable a little bit farther back, so I have to get it to that position, then I move it forward just slightly. If it's too far back, again, if you're using the back part of your tongue, that's too big of a muscle, and it's going to be harder to control, and control that flex as you get more pressure from your tongue up into the latex. Find that placement. From there, it's simply a matter of controlling airflow. When you take a deep breath and then exhale that breath, you want to be able to channel the airflow right along the bottom of the latex between your tongue and the latex, so that the air is channeled right along the latex. Again, it's that vibration of air against the latex that produces the sound. You don't want air escaping over the top, which the tape helps to prevent that. So you want to seal against the top of your mouth and on the sides with the tape so that you can channel all of that airflow right across the latex. If you're getting air escaping around the side, you're going to get a lot of this sound. So you can hear the air as well as the latex vibration. You want to seal that air so that all you hear is the latex vibration. Again, I'm putting just a small amount of air. I exhale just a small amount of air and channel it across that latex, using my tongue to direct it right into the center of the latex. So that airflow is really important. You need to make sure that it's sealed as best you can. There's probably always going to be just a little bit of air escaping out the sides or over the top, but you want to be able to force at least 80 or 90% of your airflow between your tongue and the latex. That's going to allow you to hit that high note and hold it better. It's going to allow you to control the sounds that you make with the diaphragm a lot better. So now that you've got the placement and you've learned to channel that airflow, it's simply a matter of making sound. So when you put it in there, take a deep breath and just channel some of that air across it with your tongue up against the latex, and it should make a sound. If it tickles your tongue, that's okay, it's going to get better. Just keep doing that. I know it's going to tickle like crazy for those of you who are new at this, but you'll get over it, I promise. You might try sliding it back just a little farther in your mouth if that's an issue. From there, you just put it in your mouth, channel that airflow, and make noise. You'll notice I'm just blowing a very light volume of air across that, and I'm putting very light pressure with my tongue on the latex. I don't want to force it up against it. I don't want to force a bunch of air across it. I just want to get very light air and very light tongue pressure just to make that contact and make sound. If you're having troubles making any sound at all, put the diaphragm in your mouth and get it comfortable, and then say the word hiss, H-I-S-S, hiss. When you make the S sound in hiss, your tongue comes up naturally towards the roof of your mouth, and it's going to contact that latex at the exact time that you're forcing air across your tongue to say the word hiss. That S at the end of hiss will help you make sound with the diaphragm. Hiss, hiss, hiss. When your tongue comes up for the hiss part of the sound, it's going to contact that latex just perfectly. From there, it's just a matter of learning to control it. And you learn to control a diaphragm sound with air pressure and tongue pressure, with tongue pressure being the most important. Tongue pressure is where you get all of your control. A lot of times callers on diaphragm elk calls will use air pressure, and they'll force a huge volume of air onto the latex and try to hit that high note. And it'll work for a very short second, but to be able to hold that high note, to be able to get control of the entire spectrum of the elk sound, you need to make sure you're learning to control the sound with tongue pressure. So with tongue pressure, all I'm talking about is the amount of pressure your tongue is putting up against that latex. Really lightly touching it with a little bit of air is going to produce a lower, almost vibrating, rattly sound. So that's just a really lower pitch sound, very light pressure. You can actually hear my tongue as it comes off of it a little bit and loses contact with the latex. As you push your tongue, as you kind of flex your tongue muscle up into that latex, really smoothly, it's going to start transitioning up to a higher pitch. So all I was doing there is pushing my tongue up into that latex, still channeling all the air, just a light volume of consistent, steady air across the latex. It's so important to learn to control the diaphragm using tongue pressure. So I want you to practice that quite a few times. Just put it in, start low with low tongue pressure, make a noise, and then go up the scale with increased tongue pressure, coming back down with decreased tongue pressure. Doing that over and over. Stop, take another deep breath, slowly exhale that air as your tongue pressure is increasing and decreasing. From there, it's simply a matter of putting everything together and learning the mechanics of each sound, the cow sounds and the bull sounds. One more thing I want to talk about is your air pressure. So air pressure is designed to give you more volume. It will also help you when you hit that high note, hold the high note clear and steady. So as you're going up the scale on a bugle, you're going to want to use tongue pressure, and right when you get to the top, you increase that air pressure and push more air up against the diaphragm to hold that there. Once you're ready to come off, you decrease the air pressure, decrease your tongue pressure, and drop back off. So you can see there, when I made that motion, that was me pushing more air up against that latex. It provided more volume and it helped hold that high note so I can hold that note loud and clear when I hit the top end of the bugle. From there, as I mentioned, it's just a matter of taking that knowledge and applying it to the mechanics of each sound. Practice the very simple parts, the placement of the call in your mouth, the airflow, the sealing of the latex or the sealing of the tape, the airflow across the latex, and then finally that mastering of tongue pressure added with air pressure. In the next video, we're going to talk about how to make cow calls with the Diaphragm Elk call. So be sure and check out the next video as we go through all of the mechanics, the different parts of the sound of the cow call. With what you've learned in this video, you're going to be able to apply that and make great sounding cow calls with very little effort. The success rate for do-it-yourself public land elk hunters hovers around 10%. The reality of that statement is that 9 out of 10 elk hunters each fall fail to fill their tag, or the average elk hunter only fills their elk tag once every 10 years. But average no longer applies to you. Crush the averages and sign up for the University of Elk Hunting online course today and become a consistently successful elk hunter.